Let me ask you this. Have you ever felt invisible in a relationship? Maybe you've gone above and beyond, investing time, energy, and love, only to feel like the other person just doesn't see your worth. You start to wonder, what am I doing wrong? The truth is, you're not alone. Many of us fall into the trap of giving too much and receiving too little in return. And here's the harsh reality. People don't always value what's readily available. This might sound frustrating, but it's also liberating, because here's the secret. The fear of loss is one of the most powerful forces in human psychology. When someone believes they might lose you, their entire perception of you shifts. Suddenly they realize your value in ways they couldn't see before. But how do you make someone worry about losing you without resorting to manipulation or mind games? The answer lies in authenticity, self-worth, and subtle shifts in your behavior. In this video, I'm going to show you 7 transformative principles that will not only change the way others perceive you, but also elevate your own sense of confidence and purpose. Now, I want you to stay with me until the end because each principle builds on the last. By the time we're done, you'll have a clear roadmap to making them truly appreciate your presence and fear your absence. Let's dive into the first principle. 1. Start with the fear of loss. Imagine this, you're scrolling through your phone, waiting for a message from someone you care about, but it doesn't come. Hours turn into days, and suddenly you're left with a gnawing feeling. Did I do something wrong? Did I lose them? That anxiety, that discomfort, it's a universal experience. And it happens because we're wired to fear losing what we value. Now flip that scenario. What if you became the person they were afraid to lose? What if they started to feel the void of your absence, even when you were just a little less available? The first step to achieving this is understanding the power of scarcity. People often take for granted what feels abundant. Think about it. If you're always there, texting back immediately, dropping everything to meet their needs, you might unintentionally send the message that your time and attention are unlimited. But are they really? Should they be? Here's the key. Start being more intentional about how you invest your time. That doesn't mean playing hard to get or being unkind. It means recognizing your value and ensuring others see it too. For instance, consider your responses. Are you always the first to reach out? Are you always available at a moment's notice? If so, take a step back. Let the silence speak for itself. But what happens when they notice the change? Initially, they might feel confused or even frustrated. This is normal because you're disrupting a pattern they've grown accustomed to. However, over time, this creates an emotional shift. They'll begin to reflect on your presence and realize how much it matters to them. Think about this in terms of Stoic philosophy. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. This principle applies here. You can't control how others respond to you, but you can control how you show up, and more importantly, how often you show up. By creating moments of absence, you give them the space to appreciate your presence. But let's address the elephant in the room. Won't this feel manipulative? Not if your intentions are pure. This isn't about games, it's about balance. If you're constantly overextending yourself, it's time to recalibrate. Let's make this actionable. Start small. The next time they ask for your time, pause and ask yourself, is this aligned with my priorities right now? If the answer is no, don't be afraid to say, "I'd love to, but I have other commitments today. Let's plan for another time." This simple shift signals that your time is valuable, and they'll begin to see it that way too. Now here's where it gets interesting. When you create space, you also create curiosity. They'll start wondering, why are they less available? What's changed? This subtle shift can ignite a renewed sense of interest and admiration. But don't stop there. Use this newfound space to focus on yourself. Pursue hobbies, spend time with friends, or dive into a passion project. Not only does this enhance your own life, but it also makes you more intriguing. People are naturally drawn to those who have a sense of purpose and independence. Let's circle back to the fear of loss. When they see you thriving, it creates a stark contrast. They begin to realize that while they were taking you for granted, you were building a life that doesn't revolve around them. This isn't about punishment, it's about growth. And in that growth, they'll start to see you in a whole new light. So I'll leave you with this question. What message are you sending about your value right now? Are you showing them that you're someone who can be taken for granted? Or are you positioning yourself as someone they can't afford to lose? Reflect on this and take the first step toward reclaiming your power. 2. The power of self-worth. Let me ask you a direct question. When was the last time you truly felt like you mattered, not just to someone else but to yourself? Pause for a moment and reflect on this. Too often we base our sense of worth on external validation, how others perceive us, how much attention we get, or whether we feel appreciated in our relationships. But here's the truth. If you don't see your own value, how can you expect anyone else to? The foundation of making someone worry about losing you starts with you. It's about building unshakable self-worth, not arrogance, not ego, true, grounded confidence in who you are and what you bring to the table. Let me break this down for you. Imagine a scenario. You meet someone who is magnetic. They don't beg for attention, yet they naturally command it. Why? Because they exude a sense of purpose, independence, and quiet confidence. This isn't something you're born with. It's something you build. And when you do, others can't help but take notice. So how do you get there? Let's start with an uncomfortable question. What are you doing right now that undermines your self-worth? Are you constantly comparing yourself to others? Are you chasing after people who don't reciprocate your energy? Or are you neglecting your own needs and passions to prioritize someone else? If any of this resonates, don't worry, you're not alone. But it's time to change. Building self-worth begins with shifting your focus inward. You can't rely on someone else to validate you. That's a shaky foundation that crumbles the moment their attention wavers. Instead, ask yourself, what makes me feel alive? What am I passionate about? What am I proud of? These are the questions that lead to growth. And when you grow, you naturally become someone people fear losing. Let's make this actionable. Take a moment to write down 3 things you've been neglecting in your life. Maybe it's a hobby, a fitness goal, or even a skill you've always wanted to learn. Now commit to taking one small step toward each of those this week. When you pour energy into yourself, you send a powerful message to the world. I value me. And here's the kicker, when others see you valuing yourself, they start to value you more too. But self-worth isn't just about achievements or hobbies. It's also about how you treat yourself mentally and emotionally. Are you kind to yourself? Or do you tear yourself down with self-criticism? Imagine talking to a friend the way you talk to yourself. Would they feel inspired or demoralized? If your inner dialogue isn't uplifting, it's time to rewrite the script. Think about this. Every time you criticize yourself, you reinforce the belief that you're not enough. But what happens if you flip the script? Instead of focusing on your perceived flaws, start celebrating your strengths. Maybe you're a great listener. Maybe you have a unique perspective on the world. Whatever it is, own it. And when you do, you'll notice a shift not just in how you see yourself, but in how others see you. Now, let's talk about energy. People are drawn to those who radiate positivity and purpose. This doesn't mean you have to be happy all the time. That's not realistic. But it does mean taking ownership of your energy. Are you someone who brings light into the room, or do you drain it? If you want people to worry about losing you, you have to be someone they feel better being around. That starts with how you show up for yourself. Remember, self-worth isn't something you achieve overnight. It's a journey. But every step you take toward valuing yourself makes you stronger, more confident, and more magnetic. And here's the beautiful thing. When you truly value yourself, you stop worrying about whether others do. Instead, you become the kind of person people naturally fear losing. Why? Because they know you don't need them. You're already whole on your own. Let me give you an example. Think about someone you admire. Maybe it's a friend, a mentor, or even a public figure. What is it about them that makes them so compelling? Chances are, it's not their looks or their wealth. It's their energy, their purpose, and their undeniable self-respect. They don't chase, they attract. And you can do the same. So here's a challenge for you. This week, commit to doing one thing that makes you feel proud of yourself. It doesn't have to be big. Maybe it's hitting a fitness goal, cooking a meal from scratch, or finally tackling that project you've been procrastinating on. Whatever it is, do it for you, not for anyone else. And when you succeed, take a moment to celebrate. That's how self-worth grows, one small win at a time. Now, before we move on to the next principle, I want to hear from you. What's one thing you're going to do this week to invest in yourself? Drop it in the comments below. And if this video is resonating with you, hit the like button and comment number 1 to let me know. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next step in this journey, because trust me, it only gets better from here. Your journey to self-worth isn't just about making others worry about losing you, it's about becoming someone you never want to lose. So start now. Take that first step and watch how everything begins to change. 3. Establishing boundaries and standards. Let's cut to the heart of the matter. How often have you allowed someone to overstep your boundaries because you were afraid of losing them? Maybe you stayed silent when you felt disrespected. Maybe you agreed to things that didn't align with your values or priorities just to avoid conflict. If any of this feels familiar, know that you're not alone. But here's the truth. When you don't set boundaries, you teach others that it's okay to disregard your needs, and that has to stop. Establishing boundaries and standards isn't just about protecting yourself. It's about showing others how to treat you. It's about declaring, I value myself enough to expect respect. And here's the key. When you communicate your boundaries with confidence, you don't push people away. You inspire them to value you more. Let's start by redefining what boundaries are. They're not walls meant to keep people out. They're guidelines for healthy interactions, a way of saying, this is who I am, and this is how I deserve to be treated. Without boundaries, relationships become unbalanced. One person ends up overgiving while the other takes without realizing the impact. Sound familiar? But let's pause for a moment. Why is setting boundaries so difficult for many of us? The answer often lies in fear of rejection, fear of conflict, fear of being misunderstood. These fears are valid, but they're also rooted in a false belief that saying no will drive people away. In reality, the opposite is often true. When you set clear boundaries, you project strength and self-respect, and that draws people closer. Why? Because people respect those who respect themselves. Here's an example. Imagine you're constantly asked to adjust your will for schedule for someone else. At first you say yes because you want to be accommodating, but over time you feel drained, resentful, and unappreciated. The other person, meanwhile, doesn't even realize there's an issue because you've never expressed it. By staying silent, you've unintentionally taught them that your time isn't valuable. Now, imagine a different approach. The next time they ask you to rearrange your plans, you say, I'd love to help, but I've already committed to something else. Let's find another time that works for both of us. This response is respectful yet firm. It communicates that while you care about them, your time is also important. Over time, they'll start to see you as someone who values themselves, and they'll value you more as a result. But boundaries aren't just about saying no, they're also about knowing when to say yes. They're about understanding your own needs and ensuring they're met. This requires self-awareness. Ask yourself, what are my non-negotiables? What behaviors am I unwilling to tolerate? What do I need to feel respected and valued? Write these down if you need to. Clarity is key. Let's talk about standards. If boundaries are the lines you draw, standards are the expectations you set. They're the benchmarks that define what you will and won't accept in your relationships. Think of them as a filter, ensuring that only the right people make it into your life. But here's the catch. Your standards must be a reflection of your own behavior. You can't demand respect if you don't respect yourself. You can't expect honesty if you're not honest with yourself. Raising your standards isn't about being demanding or inflexible. It's about aligning your relationships with your values. For example, if loyalty is important to you, don't settle for someone who constantly breaks your trust. If ambition matters, don't align yourself with people who lack drive. The right people won't see your standards as obstacles, they'll see them as opportunities to grow alongside you. Let's take this a step further. How do you enforce boundaries and standards without coming across as harsh or unapproachable? The answer lies in communication. People aren't mind readers. If you don't express your needs, they won't know what they are. But how you communicate matters just as much as what you communicate. Use I statements instead of you statements to keep the conversation focused on your feelings rather than placing blame. For example, instead of saying, "You never listen to me," try, "I feel unheard when my opinions aren't acknowledged." Here's another crucial point. Consistency is everything. If you set a boundary but fail to enforce it, you send mixed signals. Imagine telling someone, "I won't tolerate being spoken to disrespectfully," but then letting it slide when they do. What message does that send? It tells them your words are empty. On the other hand, when you consistently enforce your boundaries, people start to understand that you mean what you say. But what happens when someone reacts negatively to your boundaries? This is where many people falter, but it's also where your true strength lies. If someone becomes defensive or dismissive, it's often a reflection of their own insecurities, not a sign that you've done something wrong. Stay calm, stand your ground, and remember that their reaction isn't your responsibility. Your responsibility is to yourself and your well-being. Let's tie this back to the bigger picture. When you establish boundaries and standards, you're not just teaching others how to treat you, you're also teaching yourself what you're worth. You're reinforcing the belief that you deserve respect, kindness, and reciprocity. And when you live by that belief, others can't help but follow suit. Now think about the people in your life. Are there relationships where your boundaries are unclear or non-existent? Are there areas where you've compromised your standards out of fear or convenience? If so, it's time to make a change. Start small. Choose one relationship and one boundary to work on this week. Communicate your needs clearly and consistently, and watch how the dynamic begins to shift. Let me leave you with this thought. Boundaries and standards aren't about controlling others, they're about empowering yourself. When you set clear, healthy limits, you create a foundation for relationships that are rooted in mutual respect and appreciation. And when people see that you respect yourself, they'll start to worry about losing you, not because you've demanded it, but because you've earned it. So take a deep breath, stand tall, and start drawing those lines. Your worth is non-negotiable, and it's time the world knows it. 4. The art of mystery and independence. Let me ask you something. When was the last time someone truly surprised you? Not with a grand gesture, but with the way they carried themselves, their confidence, their unpredictability, their independence. Think about how intriguing that felt. Now flip the script. Are you that kind of person for others? If not, don't worry, because today we're diving into one of the most powerful ways to make someone worry about losing you: the art of mystery and independence. Let's start with this. People are naturally drawn to what they can't fully understand or control. Think about your favorite movie or book. The best ones don't give away the ending in the first chapter, right? They keep you curious, invested, and eager to learn more. The same principle applies to relationships. If you're an open book with every page already turned, there's no intrigue, no spark of discovery. But when you add a little mystery, that's when things get interesting. Now, I'm not talking about playing games or being dishonest. Mystery isn't about hiding who you are. It's about revealing yourself in layers. It's about letting others uncover your depth and complexity over time, rather than handing it to them all at once. Why does this matter? Because when someone feels like there's more to learn about you, they stay engaged. They start to fear losing access to the parts of you they haven't discovered yet. So how do you cultivate mystery? It starts with independence. Picture this. You meet someone whose life is full. They have passions, hobbies, goals, and a clear sense of purpose. They don't cling to others for validation because they're already fulfilled. Isn't that the kind of person you'd want to be around? That's what independence looks like, and it's magnetic. The first step to building independence is to focus on yourself. Ask yourself, what am I passionate about? What activities light me up? If you've been neglecting these things, now is the time to dive back in. Take a class, pick up a hobby, or dedicate time to a project that excites you. Not only does this enrich your life, but it also makes you more intriguing to others. When you're passionate and engaged, people can't help but want to know more about what drives you. Here's another key point: protect your time. Being independent means valuing your own schedule and priorities. If you're always available at the drop of a hat, you send the message that your time isn't valuable. Instead, be selective about when and how you engage with others. This isn't about being aloof. It's about showing that you have a full life outside of any single relationship. And trust me, that's incredibly attractive. Let's talk about communication. One of the simplest ways to create mystery is to leave room for curiosity. For example, if someone asks about your weekend, don't give them a detailed play-by-play. Instead, share just enough to pique their interest. Say something like, "I had an amazing time exploring a new place. Can't wait to tell you more about it later." This creates a sense of intrigue and keeps the conversation dynamic. Another aspect of mystery is unpredictability. People often fall into routines in relationships, and while stability is important, too much predictability can lead to complacency. So mix things up. Try something new together, or surprise them with an unexpected gesture. When you keep things fresh and exciting, you remind them that being with you is an adventure they don't want to lose. But here's the catch. Mystery and independence aren't about withholding or manipulating. They're about creating space for others to invest in you. When you're too available or too predictable, you inadvertently make it easy for people to take you for granted. But when you balance accessibility with independence, you create a dynamic where they feel compelled to put in effort. And when someone invests in you, they naturally start to value you more. Now let's address a common concern. Doesn't independence mean pushing people away? Absolutely not. Independence isn't about isolation. It's about bringing your best, most fulfilled self to the relationship. It's about showing others that while you value their presence, you don't rely on them for your sense of worth or happiness. This isn't just healthy, it's empowering. Here's a real-world example. Think about someone who's passionate about their career, hobbies, or personal growth. They're always working towards something, and they radiate a sense of purpose. Now think about how you'd feel if you realized you were at risk of losing that connection. The thought alone creates urgency, right? That's the power of independence. It reminds people that you're not standing still. You're evolving, and they need to keep up if they want to stay in your life. So how can you start cultivating mystery and independence today? Here's a challenge. Commit to doing one thing this week that's just for you. It could be as simple as spending an evening reading a book you've been meaning to pick up, or as bold as signing up for a class you've always been curious about. Whatever it is, do it with the intention of fueling your own growth and happiness. And here's the best part: when you invest in yourself, others will take notice. They'll see the spark of curiosity and excitement in you, and they won't want to lose it. Before we wrap up, I want to hear from you. Are you ready to embrace your independence and let your mystery shine? If so, hit the like button and comment number 1 to let me know you're committed to this journey. And if you're finding this video valuable, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next part of our discussion. There's so much more to explore, and I can't wait to guide you through it. Remember, being independent and mysterious isn't about creating distance, it's about creating depth. When you show the world that you're a dynamic, multifaceted person with a life full of purpose, you become someone they can't afford to lose. So start today. Take that first step and watch how the energy around you begins to change. 5. Consistency in showing value. Let's take a moment to reflect on a simple but powerful truth. Consistency creates trust, and trust creates value. Now think about your relationships, romantic, platonic, or even professional. Are you someone people can rely on? Someone whose actions align with their words? If the answer is yes, you're already ahead of the game. But if there's room for improvement, this section is where you'll learn how to ensure that your value isn't just noticed, it's unforgettable. The art of consistently showing value begins with understanding what value truly means. It's not about grand gestures or constant validation. Instead, it's about embodying qualities that make you indispensable to the people in your life. Think about traits like kindness, resilience, ambition, and emotional intelligence. These aren't fleeting qualities, they're foundational, and they set you apart in a world that often overlooks them. But here's the catch. Demonstrating your value isn't a one-time act. It's not about impressing someone today and disappearing tomorrow. Consistency is key. Without it, even the most remarkable qualities can fade into the background. Imagine meeting someone who's charming and thoughtful one day, only to act distant or unreliable the next. How would that make you feel? Likely confused and hesitant to invest further. That's why consistency matters. It reinforces your worth over time and builds a foundation others can trust. Let's break this down into practical steps. First, identify the core values you want to embody. Maybe it's loyalty, creativity, or empathy. Whatever they are, commit to aligning your actions with those values every day. For example, if you value loyalty, show up for the people you care about. Keep your promises, even when it's inconvenient. If you value empathy, practice active listening and seek to understand others before seeking to be understood. Consistency also means avoiding overexposure. Being too available or too predictable can dilute the impact of your actions. Think of your value like a flame. It needs oxygen to burn brightly. That means giving people space to miss you, to reflect on what you bring to their lives. When you're always present, your value can become invisible. But when you balance accessibility with moments of intentional absence, you allow your presence to stand out. Let's dig deeper into how small, consistent actions can leave a lasting impression. Imagine you're in a relationship and you regularly do thoughtful things. Sending a message of encouragement before a big day, remembering a small detail they mentioned, or simply checking in to ask how they're feeling. These gestures might seem minor, but over time they create a narrative of care and attentiveness. And here's the beautiful part. They're sustainable. You don't have to exhaust yourself with grand efforts to show value. Instead, focus on being present and intentional in the moments that matter. But what happens when your efforts go unnoticed? This is where resilience comes into play. Sometimes, even when you're consistent, others may not immediately recognize your value. This doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It simply means the timing isn't right. Stay patient. Stay consistent. Remember, the goal isn't immediate recognition, it's creating a lasting impact. And when the right people see your value, they'll cherish it. Here's another critical point. Consistency in showing value also means being consistent in your boundaries and standards. If you've communicated what you will and won't tolerate, you must uphold those standards consistently. Imagine setting a boundary one day only to let it slide the next. What message does that send? It tells others that your boundaries are negotiable, which undermines both your value and their respect for you. But when you enforce your boundaries consistently, you reinforce your self-worth and teach others to respect it. Consistency also applies to how you handle challenges and conflicts. Life isn't perfect, and neither are relationships. There will be moments of tension, misunderstanding, or disagreement. In these moments, your ability to stay grounded and consistent in your values will set you apart. Do you approach conflicts with patience and a willingness to listen? Or do you react impulsively, letting emotions dictate your actions? Consistency doesn't mean being emotionless, it means responding with intention rather than reaction. When you handle challenges with grace, you not only resolve the issue but also strengthen the trust and respect others have for you. Let's bring this back to the bigger picture. Consistency in showing value isn't just about making others worry about losing you. It's about building relationships that are rooted in mutual respect and appreciation. When people know they can count on you to be reliable, kind, and intentional, they begin to see you as a pillar in their lives. And here's the thing about pillars, they're not easily replaced. But consistency isn't just for others, it's for you too. It creates a sense of stability and self-assurance that carries into every aspect of your life. When you align your actions with your values consistently, you build confidence in yourself. You start to see that you don't need to chase validation because you're already living in alignment with your highest self. And that confidence, it's magnetic. So how do you put all of this into practice starting today? Begin with small, sustainable actions. Choose one area of your life, whether it's a relationship, a project, or even a personal goal, and commit to showing up consistently for the next week. Track your progress and notice how it feels to follow through on your commitments. Over time, these small actions will compound into something remarkable. Finally, take a moment to reflect. What message are you sending through your actions today? Are you communicating reliability, care, and integrity? Or are there areas where your actions and values could be more aligned? Whatever the answer, remember that it's never too late to start fresh. Consistency isn't about perfection, it's about progress. By showing value consistently, you not only become someone others fear losing, you become someone you're proud to be. And that, in the end, is what matters most. 6. The importance of communication in absence. Think about this for a moment. When was the last time you felt truly heard in a conversation? Not just listened to, but deeply understood. Now flip that perspective. How often do you create that feeling for others? Communication isn't just about words, it's about connection, clarity, and trust. It's one of the most powerful tools for making someone appreciate your value and fear the thought of losing you. Let's break this down into two key elements: communication and the power of absence. These two forces, when balanced, can create a dynamic where your presence becomes essential and your absence is felt deeply. First, let's talk about communication. Many people think they're good communicators simply because they talk a lot. But true communication isn't about how much you say, it's about how well you convey your thoughts and understand the other person's. Are you clear in expressing your needs, feelings, and boundaries? More importantly, do you create space for others to express theirs? Communication is a two-way street, and the best connections are built when both people feel seen and understood. Here's an example. Imagine you're in a conversation where you feel ignored or interrupted. How does that make you feel? Probably undervalued, right? Now think about how the opposite feels when someone listens to you fully, with attention and empathy. It creates a bond, a sense of safety and trust. That's the kind of communication you want to cultivate. But here's the thing. Communication isn't just about what you say, it's also about how and when you say it. Timing matters. If you're always reaching out, always the first to speak, you might inadvertently dilute your impact. Instead, focus on intentional communication. When you reach out, make it meaningful. Share something thoughtful, ask genuine questions, or offer support in a way that feels authentic. Quality over quantity is the golden rule here. Now let's explore the second element, the power of absence. You've probably heard the phrase, absence makes the heart grow fonder. It might sound cliché, but there's real wisdom in it. When you're always available, your presence can start to feel routine, something that's expected rather than cherished. But when you step back, even just a little, you create space for others to notice your absence and reflect on your value. This doesn't mean playing games or disappearing without explanation. It means balancing your availability in a way that keeps your interactions fresh and intentional. For example, if you're used to texting someone constantly, try slowing down the pace. Instead of always being the first to initiate, give them the chance to reach out to you. When they do, it shows that they value the connection and are willing to invest effort. But what happens when someone doesn't notice your absence? This can be a tough pill to swallow, but it's an important reality check. If someone doesn't appreciate your value when you step back, it might mean they were taking you for granted, or that the connection wasn't as strong as you thought. Either way, it's an opportunity to reassess. Remember, the goal isn't to make everyone fear losing you. It's to cultivate relationships where your presence is genuinely valued. Here's where communication and absence come together. Absence creates space, but communication bridges the gap. When you balance the two, you create a dynamic where your presence is felt even when you're not physically there. Think about this. When someone reflects on a meaningful conversation you had or a thoughtful gesture you made, they're experiencing the power of your absence. They're reminded of what you bring to the table, and they begin to fear losing it. Let me give you a practical example. Imagine you're in a friendship where you've always been the one to plan outings and keep the connection alive. Over time, you start to feel like the effort is one-sided. Instead of continuing the pattern, you decide to step back and see if they notice. But here's the key. When they reach out, you respond with warmth and authenticity. You don't punish them for the past. Instead, you use the moment to rebuild the connection with mutual effort. Another way to use the power of absence is to focus on your own growth during that time. When you step back, don't just wait for someone to notice. Use that space to invest in yourself, pursue a hobby, work on a goal, or simply take time to recharge. Not only does this make you more fulfilled, but it also makes you more intriguing. When you come back to the conversation, you have new experiences and perspectives to share, which keeps the connection dynamic. But let's not forget the importance of clarity. If your absence is misunderstood as disinterest or neglect, it can backfire. That's why communication is so crucial. For example, if you need space, be honest about it. Say something like, "I've been feeling a little overwhelmed and need some time to recharge, but I value our connection and look forward to catching up soon." This approach maintains trust and ensures that your absence doesn't create unnecessary confusion. As we wrap up this section, I want you to reflect on your current relationships. Are you communicating in a way that fosters connection and understanding? Are you balancing your presence and absence in a way that keeps your value clear? If not, now is the time to make adjustments. Small shifts in how you communicate and create space can have a profound impact. Now, before we move on to the next principle, let me know if this is resonating with you. Hit the like button and comment number 1 if you're ready to balance communication and absence in your relationships. And if you're finding this video helpful, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the final principle. We're about to bring everything together. Trust me, you won't want to miss it. 7. Closing with self-reflection and control. Let's bring everything we've discussed to its ultimate conclusion. The idea that the only true power you have lies within yourself. You can't control other people's actions, emotions, or decisions, but you can control how you show up in the world. And that's the key to making someone worry about losing you, not through manipulation, but by becoming the kind of person whose presence is deeply valued and whose absence is keenly felt. Here's the first truth we need to acknowledge. Self-reflection is the foundation of meaningful change. If you want others to see your worth, you must first recognize it yourself. Take a moment to ask yourself some hard questions. Am I living in alignment with my values? Am I prioritizing my growth and well-being? Or am I pouring energy into relationships that don't reciprocate? These questions might be uncomfortable, but they're necessary. Growth only happens when we're willing to confront the gaps between who we are and who we want to become. Self-reflection isn't a one-time exercise. It's a lifelong practice. Set aside time each week to evaluate your actions, intentions, and progress. Did you honor your boundaries? Did you communicate authentically? Did you invest in your own growth and happiness? The more honest you are with yourself, the more clarity you'll gain. And with clarity comes confidence. Now, let's connect this to control. One of the core teachings of Stoic philosophy is the idea of focusing only on what's within your power. Marcus Aurelius famously wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. In relationships, this means letting go of the need to control how others respond to you. Instead, focus on what you can control: your actions, your choices, and your mindset. Imagine this scenario. You've invested time and energy into a relationship, but the other person doesn't seem to appreciate it. You feel hurt and frustrated, and the temptation to demand their attention or affection is strong. But what would that achieve? Trying to control their behavior only leads to disappointment and resentment. Instead, take a step back and ask yourself, what can I do to reclaim my power in this situation? The answer lies in shifting your focus inward. Instead of seeking validation from others, prioritize your own growth and fulfillment. Pursue goals that excite you, build skills that empower you, and surround yourself with people who uplift you. When you channel your energy into becoming the best version of yourself, you create a ripple effect. Others will begin to notice your confidence, independence, and strength. And those who truly value you will step up, not because you force them to, but because they recognize your worth. Here's another critical point. Releasing control doesn't mean accepting mistreatment or staying in unhealthy relationships. If someone consistently disrespects your boundaries or takes you for granted, it's essential to walk away, not out of anger, but out of self-respect. Remember, letting go isn't a sign of weakness. It's a testament to your strength and your belief that you deserve better. Let's talk about how this plays out in real life. Think about the people in your life right now. Are there relationships where you feel like you're the one doing all the work? Are there dynamics that leave you feeling drained instead of fulfilled? If so, it's time to reassess. Start by setting clear boundaries and communicating your needs. If those efforts are met with resistance or indifference, don't be afraid to step back. Sometimes creating distance is the most powerful way to regain control over your own happiness. At the same time, recognize and nurture the relationships that bring value to your life. Invest in the people who reciprocate your energy, who uplift and inspire you. These are the connections worth cultivating. When you focus on quality over quantity, you surround yourself with people who appreciate you not just for what you do, but for who you are. Now, let's bring this full circle. Throughout this journey, we've explored how to make others worry about losing you by valuing yourself, setting boundaries, embracing independence, and communicating authentically. But the ultimate takeaway is this: the fear of losing you should never come from a place of manipulation or insecurity. It should come from a place of genuine connection and mutual respect. When you live authentically, prioritize your growth, and stay true to your values, you become someone others naturally want to keep in their lives. Not because you've demanded their attention, but because you've earned their admiration. And when they realize how much you add to their lives, they won't want to lose you, not because they fear losing control, but because they value your presence. As we conclude, take a moment to reflect on this journey. What steps can you take today to align your life with your values? How can you show up for yourself in a way that makes others respect and cherish you? These questions aren't just theoretical, they're a call to action. Your worth isn't defined by how others see you. It's defined by how you see yourself. So start there. Build a life that reflects your highest self, and the right people will naturally gravitate toward you. Remember, you have the power to create the life and relationships you deserve. It starts with self-reflection, grows with intentional action, and flourishes when you let go of what you can't control. Stay grounded, stay authentic, and trust that your value will always shine through. As we come to the end of this journey, let's take a step back and reflect on what we've uncovered. The fear of losing you isn't something you impose on others. It's a natural outcome of the value you create in their lives. By building self-worth, setting boundaries, embracing independence, communicating authentically, and showing your value consistently, you become someone who stands out in a world that often overlooks genuine connection and integrity. Here's the most important lesson. This process isn't about them, it's about you. It's about stepping into your power, owning your value, and living a life that reflects your highest potential. When you do that, the right people will recognize your worth, and those who don't will naturally fade away. Either way, you remain strong, grounded, and fulfilled. Now, I want you to think about what's next. What's one small step you can take today to prioritize yourself? Maybe it's revisiting a boundary you've let slide, dedicating time to a personal goal, or simply practicing kindness toward yourself. Each step, no matter how small, brings you closer to becoming the person you aspire to be. Remember, the relationships that matter most are built on mutual respect, effort, and understanding. When you cultivate these qualities within yourself, you set the standard for how others will treat you. And in doing so, you create connections that are not only meaningful but also enduring. Finally, I want to thank you for investing your time and energy into this journey. The fact that you're here reflecting on these principles shows your commitment to growth and self-discovery. Keep moving forward, keep building the life you deserve, and never forget the power you hold to shape your own story. If this video has resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Feel free to share your reflections in the comments. And if you're ready to continue this journey, don't forget to subscribe for more insights and guidance. Together, we're creating a space where authenticity, growth, and self-worth take center stage. Thank you for watching. And here's to becoming someone you're proud to be, someone the world can't afford to lose. Wishing you strength, clarity, and all the best on your journey forward. Until next time.